They keep convincing me. Can I set this down a bit? Okay. All right. I invite you to breathe with me. I like to do this just to ground ourselves into the energy of connection and bringing both Deb and Jeff and everybody online into this sanctuary of the heart. Just take another deep breath with me. It's great to presence ourselves in here, in this space. I miss this thing here. Anyway, you know they say April showers bring May flowers, right? Well, I think in Minnesota it's April snow. That doesn't rhyme, does it? April snow showers bring May flowers. So my talk today is life, transactional and transformational. Let that sink in a little bit. Those are big words, right? We're going to explore it and explore life through the lens of both and through the lens of relationships. And how decision making plays a big role in this. We're constantly making decisions. But what I've discovered is making these decisions without faith and guidance can lead us into a region of the vast unknown and can cause us to play around the edges of commitment. So today I want to go deeper into commitment itself. I want us to dive deep. And I'm going to ask you to help me do this through a process at the end. So I want to first read, and I'm sure everyone has heard this, but I'm wondering if you know that this reading is from the true person that wrote it. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. The moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. Think about this in relationship to what you've made commitments to. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from that decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come this way. I have learned a deep respect for one of Goethe's couplets. Whatever you do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. So, I did a little research. I love to do research. And discovered this quote was not from Goethe. This quote was from William Hutchinson Murray, the Scottish Himalayan expedition. He was on his way to, can't even think of the big mountain everybody goes on. Thank you. He was on his way, and this came through for him. So it was William Hutchinson that wrote that, not Goethe. He was a fan of Goethe. And I think of Charlie and Dustin, and everyone here knows Charlie and Dustin, and the yes factor that they did. When you look at when they said yes to whatever, whether it was moving from St. Paul to Edina, or moving from taking this big move, or moving from New York City, they are an example of saying yes to this commitment. So we're going to look at commitment within the relationships. Sorry. I'm a little rusty. I haven't been here for a while. So I think we came back first part of March. So I've been kind of taking it easy. So I found this guy. He's named Justin Wilford. And he writes this newsletter called Emotionally Fit. And he in his newsletter, he said, "Past church, church." And this is what he wrote. Humans living in the modern world need institutions that promote community, transcendence, and personal growth. And then he said, and we don't have any institutions that can do all three. Well, Mr. Wilford needs to be introduced to religious science because we do all three. We do community, we do transcendence, we do personal growth. We do all three. So we have to do a little more education on institutional growth. But institutions really tend to become transactional because they're not connected to individuals. They're connected to the product. And this isn't a bad thing. We need this part too. So I'm going to give you a definition. Transactional means the institutional and structural systems that are already in place. That's transactional. But it's very important to see COVID changed most of that. And our institutions are changing because of that. We're transforming the way we interact with others. When you think of institutional, you think of, I keep thinking of, and I keep reading about people that have gone to the grocery store. You know, it's transactional, but sometimes somebody doesn't have enough money or something like that. So somebody behind them helps them out. That's transformational. So it goes from that into the transformational part. So we are transforming the way we interact. And a lot of that has to do with COVID. We learned a lot. Not that I want to do that again, but we did learn a lot of what we miss in connection, what we missed in institutional experiences. So they're not mutually exclusive. They're part of us. So the definition for transformational means there is an investment with those around who you care for and trust. I love this because the changes that are taking place are all part of transformational within the field of institutions as well as family and friends, etc. But this takes time and patience, and this is the investment we make. So there's 5 steps to this transformational part. And think about it, if anybody has had any experience, I'm having it with a grandchild, of going to college, getting somebody ready to go to college, or getting somebody ready to move out of the house, or anything like that. Just think of this. There's pre-contemplation, where you have these discussions. There's contemplation. There's preparation. There's action, and there's maintenance. And it's all part of the transformational process. So if we go deep inside of ourselves, think about those 5 places. There is contemplation when we're moving forward. Contemplation can be in meditation, it can be in prayer, and there's preparation. We do prepare ourselves inwardly for something that's happening outwardly. So later we're going to go through a process that'll give you a chance to experience this. So Ernest Holmes said, if someone should ask whether or not God has any intention for him, the answer would be that the only intention God would have is, if man or woman is an individual, would be to let the individual alone to discover himself. That's what God wants us to do, to discover ourselves. So that takes the time and the patience in the 5 steps of transformation, or even more. Ecclesiastes says everything has its time. To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. Now, heaven in metaphysical terms means a state of consciousness which the soul and the body are in harmony with the divine mind. So we have to bring all of it in. We have to bring in our mind, our body, our soul, and our whole presence into this transformation. So in my notes I said, we're coming into spring now. I'm not so sure about this in Minnesota. I'm still learning here. But winter, to me, outside, is a time of patience and practice. It's a perfect time. We are coming into full bloom. But during winter, we planted our root. Our roots are, it's taking root, what we're doing. So we have to have these seasons. Kind of like, in California, I have to admit, I got a little lazy because I didn't see all the changes. It's boring. It really is. I have to say it's boring. My daughter called me and said, "It's so cold here." I said, "Well, how cold is it?" And she said, "It's like 40 degrees." And I'm like, "It's 80 here." It was so funny to hear the difference between California. And while I was there, it rained quite a bit. And when we talk about pre-contemplation and contemplation, it's like a lot of people leave work early because they don't know how to drive in the rain. Or they call off sick because they don't know how to drive in the rain. So it's so different. Each area is so different. But I do have to admit that Midwestern and seeing the difference in the seasons is so helpful to seeing the shifts that go on inside. Our roots go deep into the soil, just like our roots go deep into our being. So I love the idea that we are individuals and we are this identity of spirit, soul, and body. We can't negate any of it. It's all part of this. We are the living spirit of the living God. We are that. With just our breath alone, we are that spirit. So sometimes we never take the time to figure some stuff out. And sometimes this weather, especially winter, can tend to dampen our curiosity. Perhaps we just don't know the right questions to ask. So it's time to re-examine and refocus and renew our spiritual commitment. So this process that I'm going to ask you to play with me is tied to the idea of heaven and this transformational part of us. So in this teaching, we are encouraged to figure things out by ourselves. We have to ask deeply within ourselves. We have to be responsible for what's going on in our life. And really, it's the ability to respond to whatever are the triggers or whatever is activating us. So we have practitioners that help us. We have ministers, we have therapists, we have friends. And we're the one that has to go deep within ourselves to recognize that there is a power greater than we are, and we can use it. And we have to use it in order for it to show itself. So just as Jeff Foster said in the reading, there's no gurus, no teachers. This is the process that we can do ourselves every day. So I'm going to share it with you as it was shared with me. And I call it standing in the question. This is something that you can do at home with anything that's going on with you. So we just have to ask the right question. Instead of asking, what's going on, or what's wrong with me, or what do I have to do? Those kind of questions begin to develop a kind of a low vibrational, and it also sends a signal to the ego, like, I don't know what's going on, but man, I'll find it. Boy, I'll tell you what's going on. And we've got all these things going on in our head. So if you say, what's going on with me? Well, maybe it's this. Well, maybe it's this. What I'm asking you to do is change the question. So you could be feeling stuck. You could be having a health crisis. You could be having finances, life purpose. We're going to open the door to lightness. And we're going to unstuck the flow, if it's stuck. So the question can open us up to more information. So when you think about all these questions that roll around in your mind, I call them low vibrational questions that really puts to work your ego. Our ego gets to work. It really wants to help us solve it. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It just if you think it has an answer, it'll send you to another one. So, you're rolling around in this. So it doesn't elicit excitement. It doesn't elicit curiosity. And it can come from a sense of lack. So just like a treatment session, if anybody's been with a practitioner, sometimes they ask, what would you like to be experiencing if you weren't experiencing this? What would you like to experience? So that's what we want to do. We want to start asking questions that make us come alive. So once we get clear on that question, we'll be able to allow the universe to give us the answer. Not the ego, but our own deep wisdom inside of us. So instead of the questions that start with what, why, where, or even how, ask the question, not how, but ask the question, not what is happening, not why is this happening to me, not where do I need to grow, but how can I experience blank? You're going to put the answer to that blankness. So how can I experience? Can you feel how much more alive that is? Is it possible to feel the excitement of how can I experience more joy in my life? How can I experience, I've been practicing this with, how can I experience more clarity in my writing? How can I experience more deep rootedness in my faith? How can I experience aliveness, more adventures? How does that feel when you think about filling in that blank? How can I experience? Where does that excitement rise from? Is it possible to feel that? Yes, we're gonna do that right now. So, if you want to, I'd like to take you through this process for you to come up with your own up-level question. Nelson has paper and pens if you need to write. My sidekick. If not, that's fine too. But I think you'll discover you might come up with something that is unbeknownst to you until you ask the question. So it's important that we know that the questions that we're asking can either take us into this low vibrational feeling of not ever getting an answer, and these other questions to this high vibrational, exciting feeling that delves in the curiosity of our own soul. Because our soul has the answers, but we kind of have to move everything else away. We have to move away the transactional part. So, can you do a little niggling?
Yeah, I got you. I can noodle for you.
Thank you. I say niggle, he says noodle. See? What's that song? I say tomato, you say tomato. Let's call the whole thing off. Anyway. So just, if you will, if you're comfortable with it, go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Just breathe in. You're going deep within yourself, in your soul of soul. You're going into the sanctuary that no one else is there. It's the heart of your sanctuary. And put your focus on your breathing. And just for an instant, just for a moment, put your focus on any habitual limiting low vibration you have. Like maybe getting up in the morning and going, oh, snow. Or anything else, one that's constantly in your head that rolls around, just for a moment. The ones that pop up in your daily life. I'm not going to keep you here. So when you grasp that, now open yourself up to consider what you might want to experience instead. What excites you? What makes you happy? How do you come alive? And what does it look like or feel like? It's kind of like a visioning, but it's your own internal visioning for your own internal question. There might be pictures, there might be a sense. Just take a deep breath. Keep sinking down. And now ask the question, how can I experience whatever comes up? How can I experience? Allow your higher wisdom self to fill in the details of that question. And you're not looking for answers. You're looking for the question, how can I experience? And your true self and your true soul will complete that question for you. This flow will show you the answer. Give yourself one moment to bring yourself back into the room. And remember, this is a new way of questioning. Spirit always answers your questions. Then just take a breath and come back into the room. Did anybody get a light bulb here? Any light bulbs? Do I see any smiles on people's faces? I love this because when we get set in our questioning of how, of why, or where, it keeps us on this lower vibrational space. But when we ask, how can I experience whatever? How can I experience more clarity, more deep-rootedness? Just ask the question. The universe will give you the answer. So Ernest Holmes said, "Happy are we if we see things which from the foundation of the human race have been longed for by all aspiring souls." And that's what the happiness comes from, in experiencing that question. We're going to turn questions into more joy, more experience, and more deepening at the same time. Oscar Wilde wrote, "To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance." And when you have that lifelong romance with yourself, all relationships are called into that. So I want to leave you with this gift, and it's a song called Inner Space. And the reason I love it so much is because Marcy Baruch is the one that played at my ordination, and she is an angel from heaven, and her voice will take you even more deeply into this inner space. And just sit with that question. Even if nothing came up, something will, I guarantee. And you can close your eyes or not.
This inner space has the power to set me free. It's the cavern of creation and the truth of you and me. This inner space and eternity and time. It's the moment of your holding out.
Now come back into the room. I hope that helps you with your question. And I want to close with something Ernest Holmes said. We are creations of an infinite intelligence. Through all the years of our life, we have piled on behaviors and beliefs that have kept us apart from living in alignment with our true nature. When we uncover that, we step into our personal power. And we do that by going into the inner space and asking the right question. My prayer is that you take this into your daily practice and watch how life unfolds through the days and weeks ahead. And be willing to see the growth that the roots have set deep in winter and the flowers that are coming forth. Namaste.